Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is really timely for a couple of reasons. First of all, if you recall from my last video, I showed some targets from a rifle that I'd shot, and the groupings were incredible. I'll be talking about that rifle today, and also because of FX's recent release of the FX Panthera. And so today's video is on the Panthera's older cousins. Essentially, I'm going to be talking mostly about the FX Crown MK2 with the GRX stock, but I also wanted to show you very briefly how I've pimped out my FX Impact MK2, literally pimped it out with a lot of Saber Tactical and Donny FL stuff. But before I do, I wanted to say a big thank you and shout out to Sam at Ron Daly's Airguns in Barnsley, and also hi to Steve over there. A great pair of lads, and honestly, they're super friendly, super knowledgeable, and really look after you. I can't recommend them enough. So if you're in the area, definitely go down there. So let's get down to it. I've been after this rifle, this GRS rifle, for a while now, and as I mentioned in my last video, I've been playing swap shop with my existing collection, and I was fortunate to essentially go over and play swap shop to get this, and I'm glad I did, because it is shot up the charts in terms of accuracy, ergonomics, visual aesthetics from my rifle collection. And it's difficult for me to say this because, to be fair, I find criticisms in all my rifles, and I have a couple of niggles with this one, but they are literally very minute. But overall, I think this is superb. And okay, look at the Impact MK2. It looks completely different from a regular Impact. And okay, it's not a Mark III, which has got even more bells and whistles on it. But I think I've pretty much finished in terms of pimping this one out. This one has got, let's see, it's got the back butt place replaced with the Saber Tactical, and it's also got the bench rest over here. I haven't put the cheek piece on because I prefer this one. I've recently put this on with Sam's help, the Saber Tactical TRS rail, and this one's had the clamp fitted because we tried, and this is something that is worth noticing, the GRS bipod. Now, the GRS bipod has multiple positions. However, ironically, when you put those in multiple positions, the feet don't accommodate the multiple positions. So, and also it is quite costly. So if you're going to pay something costly, you want everything to be perfect on it. And I've seen some videos where if you fit this clamp and you use the GRS bipod and or decide to swap between the a regular bipod, your point of impact will change. So on that decision, and also to provide stability, we put the barrel clamp over here. This has also got the dual bottle adapter fitted, and I've got 2 carbon fibre bottles over here. I don't know if you can see them under there. And let's see what else. I've got a Fat Boy over here with the extender and the muzzle brake, but you've seen that in my other video, which I did on the FX Dreamline, kitted out in Saber Tactical. Recently, I got another Hawke 10-50 by 60, and I put some tactical mounts on here, and at the same time I wanted to, just as an aesthetic, I mean, it's not functional, to be fair, it's just for visual aesthetic. You know, in real terms, I'll take these off when I shoot them, but here's a torch, or here's a laser, here's a torch, just for kind of giggles, really. And underneath, there's the Saber Tactical extender, Picatinny extender, but I've also got an arc rail there, but I use that as a hamster which is really, really useful. And I've put a quick release adapter on there too. And I'm not going to lie, it's very heavy now to pick it up. But it's designed at the moment to sit on a bench and shoot. And I know putting those laser and torch on there kind of defeats the purpose. But as I said, it's just visual. And I've just put it on for the purpose of this video, just to say, look at it in a kind of tactical guise. And that's what it looks like. And to be fair, compared to what it used to look like, yeah, I think it looks pretty badass. And I'm going to be doing a shootout between this and also this very, very soon. Now, this is the newest piece in the rifle collection. And as I said at the start, wow, this is something else. I mean, straight from the word go, as soon as you pick up an FX Crown, I mean, at the time when I went over to see Sam, he had two. He had a standard, well, an FX Crown MK2 with the standard black pepper stock, and he had this. And to be fair, I was after this particular version. This one's the 500 millimeter barrel standard version, as opposed to the 380 millimeter barrel version. And I think both versions have the smooth twist Superior X liner in them. And I know that you can get a longer 600 millimeter barrel, and a 700 one too, but I don't know whether or not they're designed for FX. But in terms of what I wanted, this 500 millimeter standard version was the one I was after. And when in the store, I was having a kind of ergonomics play around between the standard stock and this. I'm not going to lie, the standard stock's also really nice, and this comes to one of my niggles, in that the standard stock gives you the option for thumbs up and also wrapping your thumb around the grip. In fairness, this GRS stock really, really supports and suits a thumbs up position. And that's one of the, I'm going to say niggle, but as I mentioned in some of my previous videos, I like options. And I like the ability to choose. Sometimes if I want to wrap my thumb around the grip, fine. If I want to shoot thumbs up, fine. But I found, I think I mentioned, I don't recall, or if I did mention it in my last video for the BSAR 12, I was adopting more of a thumbs up position when I was shooting, and I was finding I was getting better groupings in that respect. And I'm adopting the same thing here, and I'll show you the groups in a minute as a reminder and what I've done since. But just, you've seen, I mean, there's tons of videos that review this rifle on the internet from showing it, but just they don't really kind of go into how gorgeous this rifle is to look at and also to hold. And one of my doubts with this, and this is why I held off, and I needed to make sure I had to pick up the right one, because I was at the British Shooting Show last year, and on the advice of a friend of mine, I think it was Andy Johnson, so hi Andy, he suggested that I be careful in terms of getting GRS stock, because they're individually made and the palm swell can vary. So sometimes they can be quite enlarged over here, which basically hinders your ability to grip the trigger comfortably. And at the time, I was looking at a standard GRS stock on the FX Crown that were there as part of the show, and then I went over to the GRS stand, and they had this Nordic Wolf stock on its own, and I don't know what it was Fate or something, but I mean, to be fair, I love this color scheme is more me than the greens and the browns in the standard green version. But when I picked up the Nordic Wolf stock on its own skeletally, it just fitted my hand for some reason, and for some reason from there on in I thought, right, if I'm going to get an FX Crown MK2, it's going to be in the Nordic Wolf. And at the same time, I want to have a couple of options to try out, as in try it out in the shop to see if I've got the right palm swell. And this was a bit like Cinderella in a slipper kind of thing, in that when I tried this out in the shop, it was great in terms of the palm swell. So it fitted my hand perfectly, no problems with the trigger. And I was there thinking, right, okay, this is gorgeous. The only thing is, on the standard stock, there's some stippling over here, if I recall, and over here there isn't. which is kind of a little mini gripe, but, you know, doesn't matter. Having said that, I have seen a new rifle come out by Effecto. I think it's the PX5 Sport, and they've got a GRS-like. It's almost like a mimic, to be fair. They've paid homage to it. And they've got a very similar grip, but I think there's stippling on theirs. And again, it's something that would have been nice to see, but it's forgivable. I'll just, whilst I'm talking about the gripes, and then I'm going to go on to what I really love about this, mounts and height, in that I wanted, to be fair, this cheek piece to be lowered down so it was all seamless and flush. And fortunately, you don't get the eye relief to a scope because you need decent mounts raised for two reasons. One is because of the magazine needing to fit. And I can't remember the second reason now. I think that was the main reason, the magazine. The fact that I needed to raise the mounts so that I could get the magazine in, and then at the same time get the right eye relief, so the cheek piece needed to be raised. And in turn, I needed to adjust the butt pad to provide me with enough length when shouldering the rifle. Having said that, the GRS stock is perfect for adjustability and flexibility. The adjustability here, there's a number of different notches built in here so you can adjust them. And in terms of ease, you don't need an Allen key, you just press this button. And there you go, like that. Oh, adjusted my cheek piece height now there. Hope that's the one. But something to note. If you're holding the rifle and you're trying to do this, like I'm holding the rifle with my left hand over here, and if I'm trying to make these adjustments with my right hand wrapped around the rifle, is difficult. And I tried to do that in the shop as a test. So if you're going to make adjustments, the adjustments should be made with the rifle rested, and then pick up and try your adjustments. But if you're trying to do it, say for example, if you are thinking of getting something like this and go hunting with it, which is completely feasible, you'll find that those options may be untenable if you're trying to hold the rifle with one hand and do them with another hand. You might need to kind of put the rifle on your knee or something. But again, I do know some people who go out hunting with awesome stocks, but and this is, to be fair, no exception, just something to be mindful of. So the spring in this this butt pad as well, the sponginess to it is great. But to be fair, I think this, and again, I think I've seen another video where this particular manufacturer, and I can't read it at the moment because of the light, unfortunately, but is designed for recoil rifles, and I think is a bit overkill on this because there is no recoil. Nevertheless, it's really nice to see it on here. It's a quality item, and if obviously you are lying prone or you are taking this on HFT, then this is the butt pad for you. Let me think as we go forward. What else do I want to comment on? The safety. Again, nice defined clicks. So it's safe in the moment. And there we go. Into fire. Back into safe. The cocking mechanism on this now. Again, it's smooth. I mean, it is smooth. It's an FX Crown, for goodness sake. First of all, the first stage, there's a defined spring. Then a smooth click backwards. And then when you roll it back up to this point, there's no give, but then you'll reach tension point here, which then springs back into place and rests the lever into an indent nicely placed over here. And I'll just fire it off. This has got no suppression on it, and it has a tiny bit of a snap. So if you are thinking of firing this in the back garden or something, then I would definitely suggest putting a suppressor on. Here we go. So yes, it's not the loudest, but it has a snap to it. At a range, no problem, but definitely if you're in a garden or something, you may wish to put a suppressor on there, even though the barrel is shrouded. I do want to comment on the fact that FX magazines aren't great, and they are temperamental. And I've had one which has been temperamental, which had to go back essentially by the time it got to the last pellet wouldn't index. And I'm finding now, periodically, when I'm trying to index pellets, they are not being the probe essentially isn't pushing them through effectively. And cock it again and show you, there's the probe. And what I'm thinking that is happening, that I've seen with the pellets, I'll just fire this off and then I'll talk about the trigger. What I found with this is that the magazines can potentially have some degree of too springy, the circular section. In fact, if you bear with me a second, and I'll show you what I've got in terms of the magazines, and then we can. He says as he's reviewing live, trying to get a hold of where I placed them. Okay, I haven't actually got one of those with me, but we'll use this as principle. Here is one of my FX mags for the Impact, and it's the same principle really. There is a lid which you open, and inside here there is a thing that you twist, which you rotate to then this position, and then you drop your first pellet in and carry on going, and then you put the lid back on. Now, watch this. If there's too much spring tension here, and I've seen some reviews on this, in that the one that comes with the Crown, this is a 177 version, by the way, forgot to mention, and there are 22 shots in the magazine, and if there's too much spring tension in the magazine, they can, as they circle round, periodically deform the pellets as they reach the hole where the probe indexes them into the breech. Now, if that happens, I have seen some YouTube videos where the magazines can be taken apart, the spring can come out and be rotated, so the tension is decreased, which does help. And I haven't had this rifle long, I'm going to test it a bit more. It could be something that through more use will sort itself out, but if it doesn't, then I think what I'll be doing with the mag is trying that out first to see if that fixes the problem with the indexing. Because periodically it's frustrating, because what happens is I'm shooting fine, basically cocking lever, shoot, cocking lever, shoot, and then as I cock and then try to index, the pellet doesn't want to go through. What I have to do is take the magazine out and then either have a look at the pellet, or I found that the pellet hasn't pushed itself through enough, and I've got a small piece of it's a small piece of wood that I use, which again, it's like the tweezers I mentioned in my last video that I use to very gently push a pellet in and out of a magazine. And if I push that back in through the reverse hole and then put the magazine back into the action and then it indexes the pellet and shoots it. Even though I have noticed that those pellets, sometimes the skirt is slightly deformed and sometimes they're not. So that's why I don't know what's going on. So it's something I've got to be mindful of. I do want to talk about the trigger. I just wanted to talk about the mounts and the scope. So what I've done here is I've put on a combination of, well, again, this is another Hawke 10 to 50 by 60. And I've put them onto some fast mount adapters so that I can take this off as and when I want to and apply them onto one of my other rifles. But I know someone I know who gave me a little bit of a gripe of why you're using cheap mounts on such an expensive setup. These they're West Hunter mounts, and I'm not going to lie, for the money, to be fair, they do the job absolutely fine. I've got no complaints with them, so that's why I'm using them. I mean, to be fair, my most expensive tier 1s, I think, are on my Red Wolf at the moment, I think. And at the moment, with costs and whatnot, they were only set of mounts I had available. And I was, I'm sure, as you know, as soon as you've got a new rifle, you just want to basically put a scope on it and then test it, and off you go. And these West Hunters, I found them to be cheap and reliable, so to speak. So the trigger. This is a really good 2-stage trigger. It is match grade. One thing I'm not certain about, and to be fair, I've been lazy, I've not read the instructions, if you can rotate the trigger blade, which I think you can actually, because I did see a screw that you can adjust, so you can rotate it. And it is very, very crisp and defined. Oops, I mean, let's put this back like that. Don't want anything to happen bad to that. So, let's have a look. So, at the moment, it's in fire. We'll just cock the rifle. Okay. Here's the first stage. And there's definitely a defined first stage there. And then a nice, crisp release on second. There. So, I definitely rate the trigger. To be fair, I rate the triggers on FXs full stop. And this is now my 4th FX that I've got. I've got this, and obviously you've seen the Saber Tactical Dreamline, and I had a Wildcat Mark III. And again, all the triggers, I can't fault them. They're great. This is a carbon fibre bottle. I think it's 480 cc's, goes up to 250 bar. I fill it up to around 225. And once we're talking about the carbon fibre bottle, let's just have a quick look at the underside. Now, again, those of you who know me on the channel, this is what I like to see. It's either this or what's on the Impact. Manometers on the side, facing up, or in a position where they're not at the front of the barrel. I do not like basically manometers situated at the front of or at the end of an air cylinder at the front. Underneath, I can accept it. They are essentially facing the same direction. We've got over here the reg. I'll talk about the reg in a minute. I mean, the reg's amazing. I can't believe it in terms of what the standard deviation. And then over here, you've got the air pressure. This is currently at 150 bar from when I last shot it. I normally fill it up to 225, and that's it. I don't want to go to 250, even though it can do. And then you've got dust cover over here like that. It's not magnetic, it's just a plastic thing. I think there is a Saber Tactical one you can get, which is magnetic. There we go, he dropped it now. Terrific. And pop it back on there. And then let's get this back secure. There we go. So it doesn't fall. And then put that back into safe. So let's just talk a little bit about the groups. Oh, very quickly, at the end, there is essentially a screw that you can undo, and it's 1/2" UNF, which allows you to put anything you want on there, even a fat boy if you want to, which I think would not suit this rifle. But if you wanted to, the choice is there. So if you remember at the end of my last video, I showed some groups. Here they are again. So, as I mentioned, this was when I got the rifle. It was, again, in my garden. The most distance I think is just short of 23 yards. And to be fair, you're going to expect this rifle to be shooting 5-shot groups in the same hole, okay? 5 shots and 3 shots in the same hole, and I wouldn't expect nothing less. And I was using 8.44 4.52s. I even wrote down the batch number there. 225 bar to 175 bar. And then the next set was this. Again, as I'm shooting it down, same one shot hole groups, easily under a fingernail. My smallest fingernail over here, well, definitely well within a 5 pence piece. Again, look at the holes from this side, so you can see. But you would expect this at this grouping size, at this size. I mean, of the size range, you would expect to see this. So this is same batch, but 175 to 150. I took it to my local range, which slightly further. And again, to be fair, this was an existing target sheet I had. That was another rifle that I shot, and that was not from the Wolf either. That was 5 shots to 0 at this range, and then off we go. Same thing, again and again and again, which is great. And again, when I'm having these kind of shot things here going on like that, I think that's where the indexing is going on. 225 bar to 175 bar, that's why it's now currently at what it is at the moment. And again, with the same pellets, this was at 25 yards at Ultron Rifle and Pistol Club, which is where I hope to go soon and give these two a little bit of a face-off. In terms of the regulator, I haven't printed out the reg sheet for this, but the first time I got it, I shot 84 shots, and there was essentially a standard deviation of 0.1. I was pretty blown away by that when I showed Sam over at Ron Daly's that. He said that was phenomenal. He hadn't heard of that before. And again, from my perspective, I was super happy with it. That's why I'm really, really pleased and blown away by this rifle. And I'm very keen that, okay, FX have bought out a Panthera. In fairness, from what I've seen and the people I've spoken to, it's designed for slugs, and it's designed for the overseas market, primarily, obviously, America, South Africa, the boys that are able to shoot slugs at high powers over long distances. I mean, that thing's, I've seen it doing 300 yards, and because of the fact that the plenum is repositioned and it's completely new in that respect. These are obviously the older yet reliable siblings of the Panthera, but they still do a phenomenal job. And for us over here in UK, I think that instead of getting something like the Panthera, which, to be fair, and again, I might sound a bit of a kind of critic here, it does look like a bit of a hybrid between, it does look a bit like a Leshy 2, in fairness. A Leshy and a Dreamline, kind of. If they were to have a child, Leshy 2 and a Dreamline, if they were to have a love child, it would be the Panthera. But again, in fairness, apart from the fact that if you're thinking of shooting long range, then yeah, go for it. If you've got the distance to go for it. But apart from that, if we're talking pellets, then any of these two would be suitable for you. One thing to consider, though, and again, this is a debate that I got into at the shop, is what will happen when, obviously, the lead ban comes in, and how badly will we be affected? And does it raise questions like, will because of the weighting of 177 substitutes, will they be as accurate, or will 2.2 become the new 177? These are questions that, have yet to be answered, and in that respect, we've got to consider where, how, and if things that we buy now are going to have longevity, and if not, then what can we do to support the industry now to provide a voice to say, look, at the end of the day, in terms of, for example, target shooting. Okay, and again, just trying not to be super critical over here in the UK in terms of shooting lead outside, but at the same time, the people who are scrutinizing the whole thing are being overtly critical and looking at shooting across the board. And I think that applying it to airgun shooting is slightly unfair compared to some of the other ways that lead can be distributed into the environment. But anyway, I'm digressing. Let's get back to this. What do I think of these two rifles? Well, now that I've pimped up my FX, I'll tell you now, I haven't had a chance to shoot it in this guise. I've shot it before with the ST butt plate and the monopod and the hamster and the extended rail, but not with the TRS rail, with the barrel clamp, with the Fat Boy. So I'm very keen to see what it will, how it will shoot. And that's why I put a powerful Hawke on there. So I want to give it a fighting chance against the Crown Mark II to see, well, look, out of the two, which one would you go for? And this is a Mark II. There's the Mark III that's out at the moment. And there's all the improvements to consider from the Mark III over the Mark II. So there's food for choice in terms of which FX is the right FX for you. But for me, for right now, is this. It's this Crown Mark II with the GRS stock. And it is a thing of beauty to behold. And it has shot up the charts in terms of accuracy and ergonomics and aesthetics in terms of the rifles that I've got at the moment. And Sam asked me at the store, what are the other two rifles that are competing against this? And the two rifles, I said to him, okay, so there's the Vulcan 2 that I've got, and there's my Red Wolf Midnight. And for me, I think those are my top three in terms of ticking the boxes for accuracy, ergonomics, and overall aesthetics. So this has been my, slightly longer than normal video on the FX Panthera's older siblings, the FX Impact Mark II, my pimped-out version over here, and finally the FX Crown Mark II with the GRS Nordic Wolf stock in all its beauty. So if you have liked this video, please like and subscribe. I make these videos as a hobby, as part of being able to be fortunate to shoot these gorgeous rifles and share the experience with you all. And I make the videos because you watch them, and if you enjoy them, I really do enjoy the support that you give. So I really appreciate it. So thank you very much. And give it, as I mentioned, I think I hinted that the next rifle that I would like to get a hold of, which is cheaper than this, but I've seen that doing some very, very special things at distance. So given an opportunity, let's see what happens soon. But for now, everybody, look after yourselves, and thank you for watching. Take care, and I will see you all very soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.